talk about Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals. Can you bring up that comment for me, Marissa, that I brought up earlier in the show? I believe it was made from our good friend who's a huge Bengals fan, Aaron Butler. And he says, Joe wasn't worth the contract. Dak, Lamar, Josh, Patrick wins way more than Joe Burrow. Jake Browning last season won at a higher rate than Joe. We should have had this on a segment of overreaction. Those quarterbacks that you just named, outside of Mahomes, haven't done jack shit. You know, we talk often about the Ravens. And, you know, I try to be as respectful as possible. But let me dissect the Ravens for a little bit for you. The Ravens have a play style that's not conducive to long-term winning in the playoffs. That's why you don't see them win games, which is why Lamar Jackson has won, 2 playoff games in his entire career. You can have all the MVPs that you want, but you don't think Lamar Jackson would trade those MVPs in for a trip to the Super Bowl? Those are regular season accomplishments. We already know what you are as a player. A MVP states that you are a great individual player. You uplift the team, but that is a regular season award. What happens if that award goes from regular season and they tie it into what you do to the playoffs as well? Again, Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow can't really be compared because Joe Burrow has been places Lamar Jackson is hoping to go. I don't think that Joe Burrow's his vision is to win an MVP and he'll be satisfied with that. And I'm not saying Lamar Jackson is as well, but to use Lamar Jackson almost as a situation where you say, you know, he is deserving of his individualized contract that he did get. He is 100% deserving of that. But I don't think he uplifts his team when it matters the most in crunch time. But also a part of that goes down to, are you available for your team? We've seen Lamar Jackson deal with injuries and ailments down the stretch for his team where they have had to literally turn to Tyler Huntley and the playoffs for a team. Joe Burrow's been out there. We've seen Joe Burrow out there, hurt, injured, terrible offensive line, take his team to a Super Bowl. We've seen play calling go out the window and Joe Burrow puts the team on his back. We've seen Joe Burrow break a sack on a critical third down from a Chris Jones and make a play that leads his team back in a comeback victory. We've seen Joe Burrow take his team back from being down almost 15 to 20 plus points against Kansas City Chiefs away in Arrowhead Stadium and take his team to, the Super Bowl to upset the Kansas City Chiefs. We've seen Joe Burrow get sacked, 8 times, 7 times against the Tennessee Titans and lead his team back, albeit he didn't do it alone. Nobody does it alone. No, nobody does it alone. But he helped put his team in a position where Evan McPherson kicked that field goal and the Bengals went on. So when we talk about Joe Burrow and not being deserving, how quickly are we to forget? How quickly are we to forget what he's actually done in this league? He is the only active quarterback that has had an answer for the Patrick Mahomes-led Chiefs. And guess what? We're not hanging our hat on that. But to say that this guy is not deserving of the contract that he gets, it's downright asinine. Wins and losses happening in the National Football League. They do. For some reason, Nick Foles had Tom Brady's number. Eli Manning had Tom Brady's number. For some reason. Does that make those quarterbacks better than him? No. Do we say doom and gloom to Joe Burrow after the loss to New England Patriots? No. Is this going to be the last time in his career where Joe Burrow loses to an inferior team that they have no business losing to? No. These things happen. It's part of the NFL. But to say Josh Allen, who literally has led the league in turnovers in the last 2 years, he has. It's been awful with that. Still a very, very good quarterback. To say Lamar Jackson, a guy that has yet to finally break through his team, although he has everything that he needs. I don't know. To say Dak Prescott, a guy that continuously falls short, that has had ridiculously talented defenses, that has had ridiculously talented offenses. But guess what? They run into the thorn of the 49ers in the playoffs, and they can't seem to break through. To say those guys are deserving of their contract, tell me where their conference championship is. Tell me where their Super Bowl appearance is. And don't talk to me about individual stats. Don't talk to me about individual awards. Listen, I'm all for the Joe Burrow discourse. I'm all for having that conversation. But don't compare him to guys that have yet to break through in their own damn conference. It's tiring. It's the same narrative that the national media spits out and spins out. Can Herbert not choke in the playoffs, right? Against a Jaguars team? Can Lamar Jackson win more than 2 playoff games? Can Josh Allen not be a regular season hero and finally also break through in the playoffs? And maybe not run his number 1 wide receiver, albeit who was a diva, out of town? Let's be honest. Stop comparing guys who've literally had everything to a guy that literally dragged the carcasses of an offensive line that's not even in the NFL at this point to a Super Bowl.